if you have girls. Safety and security turning into a bigger concern.
Safety is a concern for both boys and girls. We started as a society saying a girl should be safer than a boy. Maybe a potential that she can get.
These days, there's a lot of pressure on boy moms to raise good men.
My son shouldn't be troubling another woman. So more than anyone, your husband would not understand.
There's this house help that I had. Her daughter was 16, married at that age. She had 3 girls in succession. There was that very vocal expectation. This wouldn't stop till she gave birth to a boy.
What do you think of the concept of privacy? Do you invade your kids' privacy?
This whole idea of privacy has become criminalized for some reason. When you start respecting their privacy, is that they take more responsibility of their safety.
You talked about having hard conversations. And the hardest one, or the one that people find very challenging, is the one to have about sex. Menstruation, periods, about their bodies and all that.
Conversations like don't send nudes to anybody. The crime happens when there is blackmail. Trusting is not a crime.
Porn is not sex, rape is not sex. Sex is something different, which is a good thing. Welcome to the show, Deepa, Juhi, Ragendu. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you for having us.
I say this quite often, that a very important episode, but we only do important subjects, so it is what it is. You know, I'm going to pat myself on the back a little bit because this one is where we are discussing raising boys versus raising girls. When you had your first child, did you have any preference of the gender? Like you wanted a girl or a boy? Was there anything like that?
I wanted a girl.
You wanted a girl?
And she's lucky because I wanted a girl as well. But looks like in my husband's family, they only contribute the Y chromosome. It's just boys left, right and center.
Okay.
I always wanted a boy. And luckily I was blessed with a boy.
Yeah, I wanted a girl too. Since we're all being honest, I adore my baby show, but I did want a girl. But surprisingly, call it the mother's intuition or whatever. Like when I was pregnant, I knew it was a boy. Not for a second did I think that it was going to be a girl. Did the people around you have preferences too? Did they share their preferences? Like, what were the reactions from relatives, family members, friends?
I don't think they knew I wouldn't listen to their preferences anyway, right? So it didn't make a difference. Even if they had one, they had to keep it quiet.
Oh no, my parents and my family was happy that I'm having a baby. Irrespective of the gender, they were happy that I'm having a baby.
I think that was the case with me as well because I was 35 when my son was born. So I think it was like an unexpected surprise for all of them. They were like, "Koi farak nahi padta bas ho, achhi baat hai." But I do think it's a bit of a privilege. Like we come from that strata where people around us did not have expectations of the baby's gender. Yeah. Like did not put that on us.
The time that I was pregnant, so there's this house help that I had and who eventually took care of my child as well to my early working years. And her daughter was 16 and she was married at that age. So the year that I had a baby, she became a grandmom the next year. And her daughter, tiny little thing, she had 3 girls in succession, quick succession over 3 years.
Oh my God.
And they just, there was that very vocal expectation that this wouldn't stop till she gave birth to a boy and a 4th was a boy.
Oh
just
my
tiny
God.
little things. So, these are our parallels. These are absolutely our parallels. But this is
happening right now.
It's
not
happening
like
right now. Yes.
It's not like we have evolved beyond that conversation. When I talk to parents that what do you want us to talk about, like, managing screen time and social media is actually one of the biggest things. I think even more than that, like if you're a girl mom, if you have girls, right? I think safety and security of a girl today, I think it was always a concern, but I feel like it's turning into a bigger concern. Do you feel that, Deepa?
So, I think safety is a concern for both boys and girls.
Yes,
right?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
And maybe if you look back and say why, we started as a society saying a girl should be safer than a boy is the maybe a potential that she can get raped. That's the only reason that would separate out the position of a girl in the society over a position of a boy in the society.
Yes.
So safety is right now, I mean, with online happening, with online exposure and
Every
online
day you hear
predators out there is a safety to be looked at for both either a son or a daughter is what I think.
Yes, absolutely.
As a girl, I mean, I think the ratio of how many men would hit on a girl to how many girls would hit on a boy is also a factor that we need to look at.
Yeah.
So would girls have to be
There's
more
no comparison.
safe?
There's no comparison.
And I think as long as
unfortunately.
if we can, I mean, if they have a good set of friends who are able to check and balance each other when they're going. I mean, this is also, I mean, my girls are teens, right? This is also age that, they're exploring, relationships and things like that. And safety is, luckily for them, I think at least, my daughter and their friends, they are aware of it. We have open conversations about it.
This is a very aware generation that way.
So they're watching out for each other,
generation.
Yes.
right? These girls are watching out for each other online also. Like, so the one doesn't, so as long as they create their safety nets for one another, watch out. And I don't think it has to be a very gender specific thing. I think even boys should.
I think even boys should. Yes,
so-
especially the younger boys.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I do feel that as boys turn older and turn into men, and girls turn older and turn into women, the fear, safety, and anxiety for women only grows, if not stays unchanged, the same. But for men, it might decrease from boys they turn into men. Now they're 25, 30-year-old men. You won't have the same fear as you would still continue to have for your 25-year-old women. Things can still happen, but the ratio is so skewed up,
I think that's more of the environment and the society, right?
Yeah, which
So
is
I
a
don't think
product
that
of
is
so
a
many
product.
things.
Yeah. Because boy walking out late in the night, as much as romantic as the idea we might go out and say that I can do it, I would not advise my daughters to do it.
Yeah.
Honestly, I don't know if you guys would allow your sons to do it either.
I would actually agree with that. And, there is so much statistic around, there is a higher, at least reported, cases of abuse for boys between the age of 8 and 12.
Yes,
right?
that's why I
and I remember being
between.
so scared, when he was younger. And of course, that's just a statistic, right? Something bad can happen to your child at any point in time.
Point
so,
at any
being
age.
aware and all that. Coming back to, when they're older, so I have an 18-year-old, and then he has this friend in the neighborhood, and, through the, your 11th, 12th years where, somebody has extra classes at a certain hour and somebody else gets done at another hour, they would only find, this time post 10:30, 11 in the evening.
Yeah.
And, when that first, he would come and ask that, I want to go for a walk. And I know that he's been housebound for the better part of the day, either going to classes or being in school and stuff like that. So, you're like, okay, we're a little worried. And it'd be good that if you let us know where you're going. But, then you sort of observe how they are handling situations and all that. So you sort of, just the way you would let go of, you sort of say, it's okay, but we need to know
how to
where
handle
you
this.
are.
Yes.
Yeah. So, I mean, he does step out in the evening, but he also comes back and tells me that, don't worry, we play it safe. We only go till here, or, this is what we do. So that whole anxiety and quelling anxiety bit is, I would think it's the same.
I mean, it's about communication.
Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Effective, clear communication. You know where the child is, you feel a little better.
Yeah.
So my daughter studies abroad, the older one. So when she goes out, sometimes I am still worried till she gets home. Right? She Ubers back at whatever time that she does. She hardly goes out, but when she does, right, there's a constant fear. But I know she's gone out that day. And what I see, what she's done she's there for about a year right now. They've created a little group of girls who are watching out for each other.
That's amazing. I love
so which is
that.
nice where, there's one, going out in the night, there's other one watching. One goes out on a date, people are watching. So just observant to see that they're safe, which I think is a great infrastructure for either girls or boys to create, just to make sure there's one watching out for the other. Right?
Watch out for each other.
Yeah.
I feel that girls kind of do that beautifully because even when we were in school and college, we used to do that for each other. Girls in a group sort of become more conscious, more protective. It extends to beyond your own self. I don't know if boys in a group do that.
Boys are not vocal sometimes.
And
They don't
even-
say. Ideally, they are also supposed to have, like a close-knit group where they look out for
like
each
they'll
other.
hide each other's mistakes,
Yeah.
sure. They'll give each other alibis. That they'll
Which
do.
is fine, I think.
Yeah, which
That's
is
what
fine.
growing
I
up
mean,
is
friends
about.
do.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
friends
at least
do
when
that.
something goes
do
wrong,
they-
if they're able to call the parent and say we need help, that's all we
Yeah.
need, right? At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And that's cool, right? So
Yeah,
they know
yeah.
that, okay, I can go out and tell so-and-so's parent that this happened, so they will step in when they need help. That's the only
Yeah.
confidence that the kids need to know, I think. And it's okay. It's supposed to come at 12, they come back at 1. Let them, act strict, but it's okay.
12, 1, you're giving me a heart attack. My son is only 2 years old right now. Yeah, like the bottom ground rule should be that if things go wrong,
Pick up the phone
I
and
mean,
call.
ditch the bro code and call the parent.
Yeah.
You talked about having hard conversations. And the hardest one, or the one that people find very challenging, is the one to have about sex.
Yeah.
Conversation around sex. And then for women, it also gets into the subject of menstruation, periods, about their bodies and all of that. What point did you have? Did you have them together, those conversations?
Yeah. Actually, I created a whole platform called howtotellyourchild.com.
Yeah.
Right. I had this challenge myself and I realized that, and I think it's, sex is private, but it's not criminal. Right?
Yes, it's
but
not.
it's private. Let's understand. So this whole idea of privacy has become criminalized for some reason. So even boys, they talk about boys getting aggressive. Let's acknowledge, right, that boys are more sexual than women. They have, they have urges which are probably stronger. Women are more emotional. They need an emotion. We are built differently. Let's start acknowledging that, right? And when they have a healthier understanding of it, they'll probably be able to respect. We're always taught that our private area is bad, or masturbation is bad, or any of those things, right? The minute you criminalize the act, when there's pleasure with, think, why are we then? Rape would also be wrong. It would not be wrong in their heads, right? I'm not talking about
but
people,
but
right?
I know what you mean. I know
so
what
I
you
think
mean.
the whole idea is, can we tell them that this is healthy, but perpetuating with someone who is not consenting is the crime.
Yeah.
Right? Not two people need to be in the same, there needs to be consent there, because lack of consent is crime. Otherwise, what they feel
sex
is
is not a
natural.
crime. Yeah. Having sex is...
So hence, I think this entire, my daughter was, I think, in the first grade, she came and asked me, what does fuck mean? Okay. And I said, I did not know what to say, because she'd heard it in school. So we've been very conscious not to use drop their bombs at home. Like we don't generally use at home, and it's a self-regulation for us. I'm not saying I haven't, right? And I apologize immediately to the girls when I have, saying that I'm not proud of that. Right?
Yeah.
So it was natural that they came and asked, she came and asked me. I said, I'll tell you in some time. The girl came repeatedly every 6 months and asked, can I know now? Can I know now?
Oh.
And, after some time she stopped asking. And she sniggered once. That she'd obviously learned from someone, right? Now, what is more dangerous? You talking to them about it.
Or them finding out through
someone else.
Misinformation through somebody else.
So, that's what this project has been. I said, okay, then we created this entire animation series about puberty for boys, puberty for girls, and prevention of sexual abuse and all that.
Amazing.
Want to hopefully get into the next phase where we talk about sex, and it is pleasurable, right? Why are we criminalizing pleasure, right? And it's when you perpetuate, it's a crime. Right, and bring in a healthy understanding, because otherwise kids are watching porn, and they think that is
reality.
Yeah. Porn addiction has become a big thing. It's becoming a big thing. So what you're doing, oh my God, so important. So important. Porn is not sex. Rape is not sex. Sex is something different, which is a good thing. It's not the same as these.
It's not good or bad, it's a natural thing.
I mean, it's a natural thing.
Right?
It's a natural thing. But it's a pleasurable act. So it can't really be, I mean, it's not a
and the
bad
consent
thing.
is key.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's only for the older children. We can start sex education for younger by labeling from birth, by labeling their body parts the right name.
That I'm
very
doing.
important.
Okay, good.
Call it penis, vulva, call it whatever it is. Why do you have to keep pee-poo, poo-poo and all those names? Call it what it is. They understand the biology of male and female is different. So my younger one, who's 3 years old, says this. Men have penis and testicles, women have vulva.
I am glad.
So that is how we
I'm
start.
so
And
glad.
women later on develop breast. They know that. And my elder one knows about periods.
He does? He's
Yes,
6.
he's 6. He knows about periods.
That's great.
Basically, because I go through it and he
Every
should be
month,
knowing
yeah.
it. Yeah, I go through it, and when I'm laying down with stomach pain, I don't want to lie to him. I told him, see, this is what happens to every woman. We go through the cycle every 28 days, and it's like a lining, it comes out, all of this, and various things that we use as a cup, pad, tampons. He knows everything. So now he doesn't see it like, as a weird thing. Okay,
That's
you have your periods.
amazing. That's
Take rest.
amazing. Yeah. I've started with that right labeling the body parts. My 2-year-old understands that. He's 2-year-old, but this is great. Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with this, and I'm so glad. When did you have this conversation?
So a little later, but we knew that school was talking about it. So
Ah,
like I
that's
told
nothing I
you,
would ask.
my child has been a very, a big introvert. And also he lives this philosophy, this is what I think, that what's in school stays in school and what's at home is different,
Stays at home,
right?
so he doesn't.
Yeah, so he definitely is a big proponent of that. So, because the school would tell us that today we are going to have this conversation and things like that. So many times when I would try to talk to him, he would say, I learned about it. I just had this conversation. I don't want to talk about it. Right?
Which
So
is also
it's his
fine.
personality type. But definitely, so we knew what the school was talking about, but he didn't
Right.
want to have that conversation with us. And so, beyond a point,
But
I
he
didn't
did
push it.
receive that
He
education, and you knew
received
about
that,
it.
right? And
Yeah.
and after that, when he was a little older, say when he was about 9, 10 or something, where because these days
So
the
this
good part
happened
is
earlier
everything.
than that. The
Yeah,
schools
yeah,
were-
yeah.
That
yeah.
is great.
Yeah, definitely.
Wow, good.
Of course, they sort of calibrate it at what age.
What
and I'm
age,
sure,
what?
Raghindra, you'll tell us that, it's calibrated so that they can understand it better and all that. And so, when I could figure that his classmates are now going to hit puberty, menstruation and everything, that time I sat down with him and I told him that, I hope you realize that, these are young girls and they may not know how to manage it. Yeah. And they may be so scared about what is happening or a little conscious about it, So I hope you will be there to understand that somebody can be in an awkward position and that it is not funny. And that if
so
somebody
glad.
else thinks that it is funny, you will tell them that it is not funny. Because I have seen that characteristic in him. He does not go with the crowd. If he thinks that something is right, he stands up and says that
that makes me
this is what you should be doing. So, I told him that. He said, Mama, I get that. I get that. Yes, I understand that. Yes. So with him, if he wants to have a conversation, he'll listen you through the conversation. So we've had
you
those
know that he's
conversations.
heard it.
Yeah, we've had those things. And yes, he's known that, when I have a period, they know. It's like that. The husband knows and the son knows. So it's like that. And
So it's normalized.
yeah, it's just, so I don't have to go out of my way to say anything, but I'll be like, okay, today I'm pooped, guys. I'm not going to do anything. It's my first day of period. So, those are like just regular conversations. So all that is just fine.
Just normalized.
And, as he's grown up, so have we spoken about sex? Yes and no. So when he first came and told me that, and his friends had pushed him because he's a very shy person. Are you going to tell your mama or am I going to tell your mama, that you're dating somebody? So at that time we sat down and I told him that, now that you're doing this, I hope you realize and recognize that the other person may be more emotionally invested. There are no rules around this, but you've got to be careful and you've got to know that that don't cross a boundary. Always check before you do anything and don't take anything at face value. Just be very, very, very mindful. So we had that conversation, but there are some conversations which it's just a personality type thing that I can initiate, but I have to see whether the other person wants to have it. And you have to extend that to a child as well. So,
Yeah.
This is one place, I'm glad that the schools are doing it.
yes.
But I do honestly very, very strongly believe that the parents, no matter how uncomfortable, should engage in this conversation.
I totally hear you. Yeah.
Because I think what happens is, these are very tough conversations. And once you have them, no matter how tough, the next conversation becomes that much easier.
I agree. And
Right?
they should know that that whether or not he wanted to talk to me, I'm ready to talk to him.
Yeah. I
So
want
so
to.
you know
I
that
insisted, right?
yes,
Yeah.
that I want to talk to him. So whenever you are ready, so that he at least knows that this is not a
This is not a
silent
taboo subject.
Yeah,
I can talk to my
to be
mother
swept
about
under
it.
the
Even if
carpet
it's
subject.
taboo, right?
You
Let's
have given opportunity for him to talk.
Yes.
He chose not to talk to you.
Yes.
Right.
Which
which
honestly
is
hurts.
so
But
sad.
you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yes,
It is just what it is. And you know,
I
you've
think
got
I
to-
would have been like that. No, I already know it's okay.
It's not okay, right? That we outsource tough conversations.
that is not.
Right?
Yeah.
It's
Yep.
not.
Being
It's not.
parents, like we
Yes.
want to tell them how to brush their teeth, comb their
Yeah.
hair, dress up, hygiene, and then when it comes around, then teaching them long division, short division, all
I
that
don't
stuff.
think it's so
and-
much about outsourcing conversation. I would like for both school and parents to have that conversation,
I think
and
so,
for
and-
the children to be educated
No, I
about
think these
this.
are different settings where the conversation is normalized. So in a school, it gets normalized. It gets normalized at home. So both are important.
Yeah.
But I think where I believe it's a no compromise area is at home, because these are life skills.
So you're saying that if it's not happening at school, it's still okay to a degree, but it should happen at
Happen
home.
at home.
Yes.
That's my opinion.
So, did you feel like when you were making choices for your little girl, your little boy, that ever it was influenced by, for example, in the kinds of toys that you were buying for them, or in the kinds of clothes that you were buying for them? Was there ever anything? Oh, I'll buy this because he's a boy, or I'll buy this because he's a girl. Did that happen?
Yeah, absolutely. It happened with me. Like, the whole pink, and then the dresses, and then all the Barbies and all that. But but I don't want to read too much into this whole we should not do this, we should not do thing. And honestly speaking, I think even the girls naturally kind of, gravitated towards those, or maybe it was because they were conditioned. I don't know. But the fact is, it was okay, and I'm not going to be apologetic about making those choices for them at that point in
Yeah,
time.
I mean,
The
you
dresses or
live
the
in a
pink.
certain
Yeah.
time, no? How can you be apologetic about it? You're a product of your times.
Yeah, and it's not like they would never dress in blue. It's not like there was no blue at all, right? They were all colors. But I think pink looked good on the girls, like just as did other colors. But they would definitely, the wardrobe would be slightly more dominated with pinks.
I'll tell you what, I think little babies in general, this is my personal belief, little children like pink, be it girls, be it boys.
Oh, that I don't know. So
I think the boy
Yes,
moms
yes.
can say.
Also, I did not know
have a
that, huh?
toddler who obsessively loves
Oh,
pink.
really? Okay,
Like, he goes to, by the way, disclosure, he goes to Ragendu's school, the school at which she teaches, right? And that boy likes his pink helmet, loves his pink chair, even in the school. He wants to wear pink shoes, pink pants. He wants pink everything. Did you guys also feel that? Did it seep into your parenting, that kind of?
I mean, do kids really care what toys we get for them? They'd rather play with a mug and a
They will play with the katori and the chamchi.
cooker ki seeti
Or the
and
box that
things
came
like
in.
that. Yeah, exactly, the box, the gift wrap. But I think when my son went to school, when he started school, not just at Montessori level, slightly older, I think that's when his awareness of that I won't wear pink. So I don't think it was born at home, that whole, because we never had those conversations. I don't think I remember being aware of that. And we would often, like these days, if you sort of in India, we don't really know the gender of the child, right? Before the
Yes,
sex
you
of the
don't.
child, before the
So you
child is
don't buy
born.
things like that in
So you
advance.
sort of just buy a yellow or a green, if you go to somebody's baby shower and things like that.
Yeah.
So I remember buying all kinds of colors, including a lot of purples. And see, it's also fashion industry driven, right? That, for boys, there are not too many
Options.
pink outfits.
Yes,
Yeah,
there
it's
are
a real
not.
thing, right?
Yeah.
But him getting aware of it was in school. Was absolutely in school.
This is something that I did want to talk about, because this happens a lot. Like, they'll say good parenting and bad parenting, and parenting is what influences kids the most, and it does. Of course, it's the biggest influencer. But your kids are also a product of their surroundings. They spend so much time outside of a house also, and as they get older, their peer group increases. They'll get influenced by friends, kids, now social media, whoever they think is cool, a teacher, whatever, and they will say all that too. But I want to know how much of it begins at home, right? Yes. And especially with relatives, because relatives you can't control. For example, I'll give an example. My son loves his cars. He loves his kitchen set also. Okay, he has a kitchen set. It's a very pink kitchen set that he loves, right? But I know for a fact that no relative who will come to our house will give him a kitchen set because he's a boy. That will not happen. Like even things like painting kits, people don't give. I don't know why is painting restricted to girls. You know?
Isn't it?
So
Then
that's...
you get such lovely toys for girls. I mean, what I call quote unquote girls. You get such awesome, beautiful, this kitchen things and with, fridge doors that open and all
Yes,
that.
I know. I had those.
Trust me, my
had those.
boys also love them. I would wish someone would give those to boys as well, right? Because even my children, for that factor, I have ensured that they don't go into stereotypical boy-girl toys only. So I have had a carpenter build a kitchen for them, kitchen set kind. Yeah,
lovely.
but beautiful kitchen set, a small one, but very beautiful. And they, like her son, my children have their trucks, cars and all those. At the same time, they love wearing pink. They love wearing their pink shoes. And my elder one says to the younger one, the younger one is obsessed with blue. It's not because of the gender. He's somehow attracted to the color. And he says, my favorite color is blue. What is yours? To the elder one. And the elder one says, rainbow colors. I have so many colors to love. So I love all colors. So I was really happy. He's 6. I was really happy with his answer, saying that, I don't belong to a particular color or something, like I don't like one particular color. Anything is fine. When he was small, from 3, 6, like her son, the same thing. He would wear pinks. He loves his pink. He's obsessed with pink. And we never unquote him saying that, this is only for girls.
Yeah.
No one boys don't wear pink. We ensured that no one in the house said that.
Yeah, so far that hasn't happened with us.
So I think as long as nobody's enforcing it, and I mean, you might have, relatives giving only cars to boys or kitchen sets to girls.
Yes.
But as long as, you don't get scolded for using something else or liking another color, I think eventually they gravitate towards what they like.
What they like.
Absolutely.
That is what, that's absolutely true. I think with relatives, maybe they're watching this too, and maybe next time they'll give a boy a painting kit or a kitchen set. So, let's see about that. But
or maybe check with the parent what the child likes.
Oh yeah,
right?
That's a good way of doing it. That's a good way of doing it.
Then it makes more sense because then you're not really
continuing the whole gender discussion further, right? Safety, and there's also the whole discussion about dividing household chores, and people get married and share the mental load and things like that. We all have children. Right? Did you ever find that it was, that you couldn't ask your kids to do a certain chore because of their gender or something like that? Or did anybody else in the household express sort of, no, they shouldn't do that or they should do that or that kind of thing?
So we didn't kind of grow up because I have 2 girls. So the thing is, I think even if I did have a boy, I don't think it would be different. I think you need to, some of these skills, these are like living skills, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
all of these
today,
are life skills.
Those are life skills. So I cannot say, one will be not skilled for one, right? Well, it has to be both need to learn how to cook, both need to know how to think. So I don't think it would have been any different if there was a boy and girl at home.
Yeah, no, for girls also, like some people would not maybe send girls outside to buy some stuff. कि उतनी दूर जाके रात में जाके वहाँ से सामान लाने के maybe नहीं भेजेंगे or something like that. So there are things that you may not ask a girl to do because she's a girl, or you may not send a girl to a bank to get a check or something like that. So those kind of things. But
my husband's always cooked. His brother cooks.
That's amazing.
Yeah. But my dad doesn't, and my father-in-law doesn't, so we do see that shift, there's like a huge jump between that generation and this the generation that we belong to. And so I don't think these have been really active conversations ki nahi karna chahiye aisa, though nobody has ever said anything. And because he's the only child and both of us work, so he's always been, and also his personality type, that he's always been very independent. And he's always figured his way around the kitchen, figured out not like he's a prolific cook. I've seen,
but he can take care of himself.
He can absolutely take care of himself.
Which is what we want from our kids.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's not really been a thing, at least in our house. But I know of so many boys, his friends, who cook phenomenally well.
My goal for my son is by the time he's 5, 7 years old, he should be able to butter up a toast and get himself a glass of hot milk.
Don't worry.
That is
cool.
Montessori. Don't worry.
Like, that's on me.
So even in Montessori, for that matter, like these children at 3 to 6 years, if I start, I talk a lot about Montessori, but 3 to 6 years, they crave for independence. And it's a right moment when we should allow them to take up that job. And I have seen
little boys how to.
I have seen my dad, who always helps my mom, be it in the kitchen. He used to take half the load. Be it the kitchen, taking care of me, he used to be the one who would give me a bath and send me to school. He used to put kajal for me when I go to school. Yeah.
Adorable.
So he used to do all of that. And he's the one man in the entire street I would see sweeping the floor on the street.
That's a good
cleaning
role
the floor.
model to
Yeah,
grow
yeah.
up
My dad is like that. So mentality in our home is like that. You have to do it. It is your home.
Your home.
It's not only the girl's home. So
But I think what's interesting with people who break stereotypes like that is maybe initially they get mocked, but later they get respected.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right? So the person who goes out and is able to break the saying that no, it's mine, my house, my children, my wife, right? And I think it's just a matter of time. When people take those, I think so.
They
awesome.
become the
I'm like,
silent
so
heroes.
cool.
Yeah,
Dad.
so cool. My mom's friends used to be like to their husband, see, he does all this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think this is
That's
like an
great.
interesting conversation, right? One, of course, and what is also wrong in having a stereotype? That's also something. If there's a man who's going to go do all the bank work or this or that,
Yeah.
and if the woman is the caregiver, it's also fine. I think what is not okay is to let each family. What is okay is to let each family be and figure there out. Where if one person feels like I'm pulling too much weight, then it's up for a discussion between the couple.
Yep.
Right?
What you're saying is absolutely right. If the world really were this mature, but it's not. So this which would have been a very equitable and respectable division of labor has over time turned into a stereotype and an expectation to be forced upon people. Right? Like if this really were, we've all lived our lives, we've all seen our grandmothers, mothers and all, we've seen the women in the family. We know that oftentimes it's just the expectation. Oftentimes they don't have other option. Oftentimes they just have to do it, and oftentimes, more often than not, they are not respected for it. Yeah. So if this was a very very responsible adult division of labor that was happening, that one person has decided to take up the outside duty and one person has decided to handle the home, and it was very well respected, right? And both of them got their respect from each other and from the world, this would have been fine.
I think,
but
the crucial thing I think is the respect of
yeah,
chores.
Yes.
which is not
Right,
there
the
anymore.
issues with the respect of
The
the
mutual
chores more than
respect.
anything else.
Yes.
Oh no, respect
Yes.
of the chores
The
itself.
chores also, yes.
Yeah.
The way it is
Somehow the
used.
person who does something at home becomes the one who's less respected than the guy
Yes.
who goes out.
Yes,
right?
yes,
That's the
yes.
issue,
That has
right?
become, I think that would have been one
No,
of
and
the
in
things.
certain families, it's the power equation that comes from the from the person who's going out and earning, quote unquote, right? So I think it's using these stereotypes to sort of promote a power equation. I think that is the
Correct.
trouble.
That has
Maybe
become an issue.
stereotypes, like you said, is not really the trouble. The trouble
Not really
is
the
what-
trouble. Somebody
yeah.
makes that choice and get whatever it was that they wanted, respect, whatever it was, the equation. Awesome. Like you should be free to make your choice, right? But not at the cost of someone's respect, not at the cost of, like it shouldn't become a thing that you're expected to do over time, right? That's where we are. That's why this discussion also happens.
I hope I'm not going too outside the scope of this conversation. But now that, I lost my mom a few years ago, and I see that when they get older and these, role distribution that they have done through their lives, I just, I circled back to my mom-in-law and I said, now I have experienced something, a loss that, fortunately the rest of you haven't, which is my husband and my mom-in-law and my father-in-law. But, my dad and I had just gone through the whole entire grief period. And I told my mother-in-law that, can you make sure that everything that you do to take care of him, that he can take care of himself to at least some more extent, that he can survive. And I told the same thing to my father-in-law, that, just make sure that she knows everything, that she's not fearful or she's not scared or that she's not dependent.
Such an important point.
And she's an extremely intelligent person, right? But it's just that, if you haven't done it for say 3 or 4 or 5 decades, how prepared are you? So it's one thing what you said, respect, mutual respect, but the other thing is also survival and how fearful you are.
It is survival skills. You're very right to put it that way.
So I do think that they get scared. I saw my dad go through that. And, it's just one of those things.
Yeah. No, I can think of so many people. If anything like this happens, they will be completely lost without the other person. I really feel that these days there's a lot of pressure on boy moms to raise good men, so to speak. This is because that conversation, it always somehow comes to the moms. Of course, we are the biggest influence in the lives of our kids, but it's always never the society, it's never the social media, it's never the peer group, it's always mothers need to raise their son. It's not even the fathers.
I'll tell you why.
It's not even fathers need to raise.
I'll tell you why. Like you said, mothers are the caregivers, are the
primary caregivers.
Yeah, primary caregivers. And we know how crappy men can get also. Put it out that way. We know how men can get, and we all have had our first-hand experiences with some creepy men also. I think most of us sadly have.
I think everyone. I don't think there is anyone.
So somewhere we feel like, my son shouldn't be that. That is there true. In our mind. My son shouldn't be troubling another woman like this. So more than anyone, your husband would not understand.
Would not understand this point of view.
Wouldn't understand this point of view from where you are coming. That you have to raise a right man.
Yeah.
So it's only on the mother because of this reason.
Yeah, because we understand.
We understand.
And I think if you fundamentally, I think when we talk about how to raise the right man from a boy, it's just, I think, just teaching them how to respect everybody.
Yeah.
I don't think it's got the only thing that where I think there's what we are all discussing would just come down to how do they respect.
Respect. So, basic respect
and
for the
I
other
do believe
person.
that if the household has a father who respects the mother, okay, and as long as the environment shows that, and then because what you said was very interesting, right? They don't see what you say, but what you do.
What you do.
So if they see your husband respecting you, then they know this is the way it should be done. So let's say, it doesn't matter if they say, I respect your mother, and if there's abuse happening in the house, like we know it happens in many houses, they do think that a woman is someone that can be talked down to, or even physically abused so many times. Right?
Yeah. No, that's absolutely true. But then there's also this thing that you can give them good examples. They go out into the world and they see all the wrong examples. It's becoming more and more difficult to protect or safeguard them from that. There is also the point that if their moral code or if the love they get home is strong, they'll be able to resist it. But the pressure from outside is also getting stronger day by day. Like it's not weak anymore. It's in your homes. Like I keep saying, it's on your phone. It's everywhere, right? And you go outside and the pressure to be, say, an alpha male, which is a new thing that's happening these days,
What's
right? That you have to be an alpha male.
Oh, okay,
You have to be the protector, the go-getter, the charger. No matter there's no war that you're fighting, but you still need to be the alpha male who needs a trad wife, a traditional wife, not somebody who is, and the whole idea sort of has skewed into this thing that, women are somehow, the ambitious or feminist women are somehow the enemies of alpha males because they don't let them be the protectors that they should be. I'm so glad by the look on your face that you don't know about all this.
And she's like, what?
No, I don't understand. I'm quite old, but I'm still on Instagram. So I do get this content. I don't have sons. But the lingo, that tad wife, that lingo I didn't understand till you explain. But I have heard, I do understand the alpha male.
So. I would happily be blissfully unaware, man. I don't really want to know all of these things. Like, why?
I do believe there is some amount of, some amount of truth to it. Right? I think, like I said, there's a reason why men, as animals, right? Men are the protectors. The society has changed, right? They have it in them to be the protectors is what I think. So what is protection? What do we define as protection has changed right now. Maybe we don't need them to be chivalrous. It depends, right?
The definition has changed. The definition
if it comes to it, let's say there was somebody drunk and misbehaving on the road, I would prefer a man to deal with it. Right? I want the alpha and the man to come out. I much rather be protected.
Does it? What? I have never seen it coming out. I've only seen the alpha in women coming out. I've really, I'll be very honest.
Let's say you go out with your husband. There's a drunk guy out there. Would you be the one standing up for it, or would you want your husband to do that?
I would punch him in the face. But my husband would do the same.
Exactly my point. So the first line of defense for a family, very naturally, is the man.
No,
right?
so
It's coming
I
from
kind
there,
of
I
don't
think.
agree with that.
Sure.
Because I really think that men and women are both protectors. And I've seen women be very fierce protectors. And in my life, I've often seen more women be the protectors than men be the protectors. I've seen women protect men. I've not seen vice versa happen so much. And women protect men emotionally. Women protect their dignity by not disclosing things outside of the home, right? Women protect them emotionally by acting as unpaid therapists all the time. Women protect children. Like if somebody were to come in the house, like children will always be like women even if they don't know you, right? Women will protect the children. Largely, there will be exceptions. Of course, there will be exceptions, but largely women will protect. That's why they say often when, children are lost, go find an adult woman, So
where I'm coming from, Amrita, is a little different. I'm talking about a physical threat. Right? Emotionally, I do understand. It's it's not that a woman fails to protect. Are women protectors? Yes. Does it mean men are not nurturers? No, men are nurturers. Right?
That's what I say. I think both are protectors
but then
and
fundamentally
nurturers.
with the way we are built, right? So if there's a physical threat of some sort, right? It would be the man, purely because if it's a danger of some physical nature, he's built also to handle it better than you. Usually men are stronger or whatever, right?
I would agree with that. Physically,
but you will go behind. You will also be there. It's not like then comes the children, right?
So that's how you're
kind of, it's not that one fails. It doesn't mean that if the mother's not there, the father's not the nurturer, right? But I do believe that the alpha, maybe how you read it is very different. I think that's important.
I think
right?
that's what's missing. Because this whole alpha ideology right now is about dominating women rather than protecting women and children.
Yeah, so that
these alpha men are not the ones who are out on the street standing up against injustices. They're not those. They are the ones who are dominating women in their houses. Like, what kind of alpha male is that? Right? So, you're right. Like, men being physically stronger can be the first line of defense if they choose to be.
Yes.
But the conversation online is really, really so skewed, right? That it's not there. Like, that's not what being an alpha male means at all. Like, when you make a statement like women are stopping you from being the protector, how can anybody stop anybody from being a protector? Like, that's not a protector if somebody is stopping you from being a protector. They can be the protector, they can be the nurturer. And they will be that better when they love and respect people better.
They don't have to do things to prove anyone else,
Yeah.
basically, or show.
Yeah. So that's where my whole concern about raising boys to be good men comes from.
So here's the thing that I think that, that's the thing about social media, right? Or media of any shape or form, is that the bad is amplified just the way good is amplified. And I do think that the bad catches attention much more easily.
It does.
So we sort of tend to hear more of that. But if we really look at people around us, I do think that that men are evolving. We've seen the evolution between the last two generations.
So it seems to be a time of extremes, though. Like,
I agree with you.
Like, there's a lot of good evolution happening, and then there's a lot of devolution happening at the same time, right? Yeah, we seem to be living in a polarizing time.
Yes, that I agree, and I think that has so much to do with the media on our phones, right? It's right here with us.
You get caught up in your bubble, where you get caught up in one particular thing, and that's all the noise that you get in your head.
Yeah. Right? Again, it's all in your upbringing. Yeah, it's all in your upbringing, your environment, where you were brought up, how it was. That affects you a lot.
No, but I do agree with her that, we can influence our children till a certain point in time.
Yes, definitely.
And beyond that, we don't even want to influence them. We just want them to evolve into whoever that they choose to be. Yeah. So at that time, what is it that they are listening, seeing, reading is a real fear. I mean, as a parent, I'm sure it's a real fear. But I would say that obsessing about it.
I want to ask something when you say what they're reading. What do you think of the concept of privacy? Do you invade your kids' privacy? Your kids are too small to invade their privacy, right? They don't have privacy right now. They don't have privacy. But your kids.
Mine wouldn't allow.
That is true. They wouldn't allow. But honestly, do you take permission?
And no, I don't even ask for it. I don't ask for it. And And he is very respectful of our privacy because he's the more tech savvy kid and all that. And I see how, if he has to fix something on my phone or my husband's phone, or he's just playing around with something, he makes sure that he's not going towards a messaging or this or that. So I just see that I think it's also an evolved generation like that. So they respect their own privacy and they respect other people's privacy.
It's very aware. This generation is also in a way a generation of extremes because of the times they're living in. But they're so aware, so intelligent, and so vulnerable at the same time. Because of what they're faced with.
On the topic of privacy, like we're very sure that we don't cross boundaries. I don't check on them, and they of course don't check on me. I mean, what is the boundary is very clear. What I think it does when you start respecting their privacy is that they take more responsibility of their safety, right? Because they know, and of course we have had this conversation. That I am trusting you to take care of this, so you don't do these things on this thing. It would be, including conversations like don't send nudes to anybody. If you do, the crime is on the person who would probably blackmail you for it.
You've had that conversation.
Yeah, it's important. I am
so glad,
right? Because what happens is usually that there's so much shame. Let's go to Google, you'll find so many nudes. Yeah, like all of us have, we're not very different from one another. But then there's such a pressure for people, I think, especially on when they get into a private chat with one, which is natural, right? We are human beings who want to procreate, right? And that exchange should not become, the crime happens when there is blackmail, not by sharing because you're trusted, right? The whole outlays that don't do it. Because it can be a problem.
Yeah, if you don't know if you trusted.
The roof, I don't know, sorry for my French, things go wrong, you can edit that bit.
Or we might not.
I'm okay, it's your show.
We'll see.
Right?
Yeah. The point you make is a very valid one.
But come to me because we can go to the cops and take that guy to the cleaners. Like we should. Because highly likely the guy is doing it to other girls as well. Or even could be other boys as well. Doesn't necessarily be a girl,
necessarily have to be a girl.
So once a perpetuator is high likely that person is a perpetuator. So try and tell them not to do it. If they do it, the crime is, trusting is not a crime. Right? Blackmail is crime.
I'm so glad you put it out that way. I'm so glad because that is a statement so devoid of victim blaming that I love that statement.
Yeah.
Right? That trusting is not a crime. Yeah. Even if your daughter, my daughter, somebody's daughter did make a mistake, send somebody to somebody else.
It's not a mistake, right? How
it's
can
not.
Trust be? We are, here's someone they want to share intimacy with. Right? And there's a lot of trust that happens, before you go out and do that. And
it's a very evolved perspective, I have to say.
But it's a right perspective, I think.
Really. Yes.
It's only out of, trusting someone and wanting that intimacy with that person. And if that trust gets broken, where's the mockery? Put the shame where it belongs. The people who are sharing it, mocking it, that's where it belongs.
Put the shame where it belongs. Yeah. Yes. That's amazing. Put the shame, put the guilt where it belongs. Put the blame where it belongs.
So when they know that these are the possibilities of things that can happen, they also are more aware about their privacy. When they get that privacy, that ability to hold on to their privacy, they know it comes with responsibility.
Yeah.
Right, then because they know we've had a conversation of what can typically go wrong, or not typically, what can potentially go wrong. So the potential is in their heads before they are out there, and that's very respectful, right? And come what may, as parents, we just have to be there for them, right? That's the only thing. Show up for them, come what may. That's what parenthood is, according to me, I think.
No, you're absolutely right. That's what parenthood is. We talked so much about raising boys, but raising girls. Raising kids is a challenge, but raising girls, one thing that, people talk a lot about is self-esteem, right? Because many women are often not the most confident women, not very high in self-esteem, especially from previous generation, even our generation. I don't think I'm very confident or have a lot of self-esteem either, like extreme self-esteem issues, right? So what are we doing to ensure that, the next generation of women don't have this or have less of this,
It's like you said, I have a lot of self-esteem issues. I've been adjusting my coat for so long right now. But let's get real about it.
No,
right?
it's real.
It's
You're
very
right.
real, right?
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
When coming here, I said, should I wear this? So I was checking with the girls because there is, and it could be influenced by many things.
Yeah.
So here I am battling it at 49, right? to say that my kids will not battle it at their teenage years is wrong.
Yeah.
Right? It's, I think, how you cope with it and what matters at the end of the day. Right? I'm here not as an actress. Right? I'm here as someone as a mother who has an opinion. So as long as that comes out, I think somewhere we need to tell our kids, like, why is it that, where is your self-esteem really bothering you? And if you're able to perform where you have to perform, right? Of course, there's a constant need to have the perfect bodies and a lot more for women than it is for men.
Yes.
I think, because I at least as a woman, I have felt it.
No,
and I know,
I think all of us will
we all
agree.
have gone through, right?
We all
But
of
I
us
don't
will
know,
agree
with
with that.
respect to sons, do they feel it? I don't know.
They do.
Yeah.
I think these days they do.
Yeah, they do.
It's very
So-
real. It's very
yeah.
real.
So are we really talking about self-esteem only for girls? Because even boys have this thing of being rejected by girls, right?
No,
That's
they do.
also
They
a
do.
thing,
That's
right?
absolutely true. That's absolutely, especially in teenage, both of them are
Yeah,
susceptible to low self-esteem. But again, this is a generalized question.
Yeah.
Like women compared to men over generations have lower self-esteem and more self-esteem issues, right? We don't see women in leadership roles. We don't see strong women. Look at all of the companies that all of us have worked with for ages and ages. How many women leaders? How many women that others, men and everybody else is looking up to,
I would
right?
like to say no because I'm a woman leader.
I know, I'm so glad both
So I
of
would
you.
like to say that, I don't want to get, I understand that it's an issue, I understand. But I don't want to accept it. Because otherwise I'm not going to be able to challenge it. Or I don't want to be aware of that problem. Because then I become slower in my track. Right? I don't want it to acknowledge as a problem at all. And it's about, I think, women who can make it happen should go out and make it happen on a daily basis. And that's how you start looking at the at leadership roles or roles like that. We are close to about 200 people today, right? And I don't think any one of them stereotypes me as a woman or
Which
a
is
man,
amazing. Which
right?
is amazing. A leader is a leader. A
Yeah,
boss is a
yeah.
boss. Whether
But
it's a man or a woman.
not that I've not faced this gender issue where they immediately people think that they can walk you over. But I think as long as you are like talk like whatever you are, then sometimes they realize you can't mess. I'm talking for the company or for my role. It doesn't matter beyond that. So people start taking you for the work you do as seriously as they should for that.
I want to ask you something there. Did you ever feel, and feel free to chip in all of you, that you had to become tougher to be taken seriously at workplace?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Right? Like that if you were your own self, like people would not have taken you that seriously. People would have walked all over you. So you had to become tougher, often tougher than your counterpart male leader.
Yeah.
So that people take you seriously. Has that happened?
Yeah, I think so. But I think over some time, at least I'm sure you can also add in that after being in it for so long, I've been doing this for about 18 years right now. You've seen it so much, it just happens effortlessly where you put your foot down. It could,
that's great.
it could even be, it could be simple body language like saying, doing this to a man, which will kind of say, you know what, I'm your boss kind of a thing. It could be simple cues like that, right? Which say, don't mess with me. Or sometime, I think when you start focusing more and more, the conversation is around the work, it starts disappearing. The gender kind of starts disappearing.
But it does take longer, I feel. Like, because the amount of energy you have to, there's only so much energy you have. There's only so much. Now you have energy to put into your work. Now, if you also have to add energy to prove that I am worthy of being taken seriously as a leader, that's just unnecessary energy. This woman has made it to this position. Clearly, she has some credentials that if a man would have made it to this position would also have had. Just respect her for it, and
you are going to get beeped.
Yeah,
I'm the better one out here.
We'll beep that out. But just respect her for it.
We've had Indira Gandhi.
We did.
We've had
much
Jayalalitha.
before many other Western developed countries.
Yeah. We had
Yes.
Jayalalitha. We have right now, Nirmala Sitaram. We have very strong women. So we're used to seeing. So I do believe that. But what I think is little. Somehow a woman in leadership role starts donning the pants. Okay.
Yeah.
Which is why I remember my older daughter actually told me this. It's like you can lead being a woman, Amma. Why do you have to be a man to lead?
Be a man, and she's absolutely right.
And I'm like, that's when I started leading more from the heart. Of course, the brain made the decisions, but I think I started getting softer. Right? Because
You've got a wise daughter.
Oh, yeah. I learned so much from both of them. I learned so much from both of them.
So I've had this team that's worked with me for a very long time. And I see all these young girls, fresh out of design school and all that, who come and work with us. And so see, we are in this weird industry, right? It looks fancy and glamorous from outside design, but actually the people we deal with are vendors, carpenters, very blue-collared labor. And trust me, Bangalore is a great place, a very safe place, because before this I worked in another city, and those are 2 extremely terrible years, because how much will you agree with you? How much energy would you put in just doing your day-to-day work, right? Just to tell people that because it is designed by me and I'm asking you to do it. Yes, just do it, right? Because that's part of my job and that's part of your job, right? So now Bangalore is a much, much, much easier place. But coming from the background that younger women come from, just this morning, by the way, I had this conversation with my team that I started out exactly like you, right? That I have the voice that I have, right? But for you to square your shoulders, and when you have to make a point, use a different tonality of voice. I taught that to myself. When will you teach it to yourself? I was telling them that because the conversation was that you get taken seriously because clients know that you are the boss. But can you, for that matter, look at me and see why I get respected, not just because I'm the boss, but I get respected because I have trained myself to use another voice when I present my work, or a third voice when I'm telling somebody that that's wrong and you need to bring that down. And I'll not pay you extra penny for it because you made that error.
So basically, you have to tone down your softness.
There is but every leader has to. Why are we putting a gender twist to it? What I'm trying to say is,
every leader has to.
Girls, every leader has to. That's what I think. Every leader has to. I don't mean aggression. I mean firmness.
Yeah.
Not all girls have seen examples of how women leaders are doing.
We've not seen women leaders.
Yes.
Yeah.
So seeing more. So, to your point, yes, we have political women leaders, but we may not have in our immediate context.
Day-to-day lives, we've not
so
seen.
In that immediate context, I think it's our job to set those examples and tell them how we are doing this, because it wasn't easy for us either. So,
I sometimes wonder if it is the natural difference between men and women that people often talk about. But sometimes I agree with it and sometimes I don't agree with that men and women are naturally different.
Leaders are leaders, right? And there are both male and female traits, because as a leader, be it man or woman, you have to nurture your team, right?
That's well put again.
As a leader, you need to be firm or aggressive about the growth of your company. So so you have to be risk taking.
I'm in a profession where men do not even want to come. So
yeah,
it's sad to see that there are no men who are willing to come and work as a teacher.
So glad you mentioned that. Yeah, that was not in this at all. But so glad we are. Why do you think that is though? Because teaching such an important job. Like such an important. Can you raise
my dad's
the
a
next
teacher.
Yeah, very few men. That's what.
But then he taught in a college.
Since forever.
And
And when you think of traditional gurukuls and all you think of is sages, all male figures. When you look at education system today, and since we've been kids, all women.
Yes.
Like hardly 1 out of 10 used to be male. And then again, you go to senior education.
Yeah.
There you will see men. Professors, men can be professors, but men are not teachers.
Yeah. Basically,
Right?
I feel mostly it's because of the pay scale. It's a big factor.
Yeah.
Because Indian teachers, whoever teach in whichever school, if you're not in government sector, you're being paid pennies.
Yeah.
Literally. You go and deliver 35 orders in Swiggy, you'll be making twice the amount. So why would someone come in here? Especially if your entire family is dependent on your income.
On your income.
men carry that burden in our society.
Men carry that burden. Yeah. And I also think like it's a cycle. So because they're being paid less, so men don't take up this role. They have to support families.
Yes.
And because it's more and more women taking up this role, that's why it's paid less. Because the assumption is that for women, it's a secondary income. Exactly. They are not running the family. Correct. So it's okay. Otherwise, why would the difference between, say, a professor's pay scale and a teacher's pay scale be so different?
Yeah, fair.
Right? They are all teaching jobs. Teaching young minds, one can argue, is more difficult might not take as much only intellectual rigor, but more challenging in just ways to get them sit and
No, but
learn.
I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I've seen, most of the teachers I'm seeing at the primary are themselves young mothers. So what happens to them is that it's convenient with the school schedule. They get to take off when the kids are off. There's also convenience, I understand.
No,
That
it
there's
is.
absolutely no
True.
reason why someone should get paid less.
Yeah.
Okay. And they've also had the experience of dealing with little babies of their own to some extent. So and the fact that you get your summer vacation, you get all those off. Because otherwise, if two people, I know it's a logistics challenge. If two people are doing no summers, because then the kids are at home.
Yeah.
Right? Who watches the kids? So when the mother's schedule aligns with the kids' schedule, there is a home functioning for the kids no matter what season.
No, you're absolutely right there. So in our current setup, it makes sense for women to take up teaching roles, but that is no reason to pay them less.
I am.
And one more thing,
why pay them less for it?
There is
Like,
a
pay them
perception
more.
that when you're having a teaching role, especially primary, you don't have much work. You go to the school and you teach XYZ and come back home and you're like doing your home.
I don't think so.
No, absolutely no. Absolutely no. You'll have, when you come back, your children in school, they would have asked you hundreds of questions. Like the other day,
Mentally draining.
elder children, I was talking to them about heart and lungs and all of those. And I told them about rib cage, how it protects our lungs and heart. Interesting question. Why don't I have bones here to protect my stomach? No, I have to do my homework. I have to sit and do my research. No, it's not only about that. And we think about art activities or craft activities, whatever we have to do. We have to see, can my child do it independently? I shouldn't be doing it. Can my child do it independently? I have to do a lot of research. And even once you get back home, you're chatting with other teachers to check in, did this happen? Did that happen? Even if you take an off, we usually don't take an off. Even if we have fever, we would come, take a step back, because we don't want to infect the children, of course. Just take a step back and we at least just watch. What if I'm not there? What would my children do?
Yeah.
It's just equivalent to taking care of your own child. So you're taking care of 30-35 children in the class, and all your mental, I'll tell you, by 10:30, we start 9 o'clock. By 10:30, we're like, okay, we're half dead. And we need one kadak chai to wake up once again. And then by 2 o'clock, you're dead again.
Yeah.
Once you come home, you're exhausted.
Yeah.
So mentally, there's a lot of load taking away. It's not about the breaks, summer breaks. Of course, you need that. We all have our leaves. But the pay scale is big factor for this.
It's an economics thing, right?
Yeah.
It's an economics
Any
thing.
industry where a lot of women are employed, the pay scale drops.
Yes.
It's a thing. And
I've read up on it.
And it's just something that happens, I think, in terms of market forces. What we need to do is sort of recognize that a phenomenon like this happens and stand up against it. I think that is very important. Any industry where there are more women.
Because I don't think we pay less fees.
Yeah, true. The customer is not paying less fees.
So I'm just seeing that in my son's school, there are quite a few men teachers.
That's good.
So I guess it's
probably it's a school that pays
better. But in
better.
younger classes, no. You know what you are talking about, Ragendu? Younger classes, yes. I've seen more women teachers, but I also think that they have a flair for it.
And I think, from a parent's perspective also, when you go to a school admission and there's a male, especially for the very primary years,
like you
and
feel
you're
safer if it's a woman.
You feel safer.
You feel safer as a woman. Like you just feel safer giving your kids to women.
I agree with you, and I would not feel very comfortable.
Yes, if there's a man.
Yeah.
That's also a thing.
As long as it's
which is
another
also
woman.
a sad thing, but it is what it is.
Yeah, as long as it's another woman.
Yeah.
And not because I suspect him of anything. Because I know naturally women are better at handling babies
we
and
all
kids.
have
That's
that.
all it is.
No, we all
it's
have
not
that.
It's not about that person is going to be bad, or it's not attributing any evil intent on the personality or just because he's a man.
But you feel that a woman will take care of my kids better.
Yeah, because I think...
But that's a bias, no?
That is a bias. But we just said that maybe women are naturally better at it. I don't know.
Right? Like, it is also not just a made... We've seen that, right? When I think I was a better nurturer for my children than my husband was. Not that he was not present, right? He was, there and taking care of them. But little things like, it could be simple as like, putting the right matching clips.
We are so OCD about it.
We wouldn't know where the matching clips are. How would you put them on, poor guy?
No, I understand. But what I'm saying is, because we start thinking that, these little things a woman would do naturally.
Yeah,
So
that is true. That is true.
I'm just giving a very silly example because even that is where we start.
No, it's a very good example.
Right,
It's a
because
very,
when
very
we
good
put
example.
food for the kids, and there's a party, how the men would feed the kids.
It's the
to how the
micro
woman
details
would,
that
right?
you're talking about. The
This
thought that
one
goes
thing
into
happened in our
something.
school wherein a child exchanged the footwear, and I'm asking this dad, are you sure that this is his footwear? Because I don't know what this. He said, yeah, white is his footwear. I was like, I know it's white, but I have one more in my bag which is off-white. Huh? What? Off-white. And he's like, can you please show me that? I'm like, oh, this is off-white. Then he's like, then this would be his.
I liked how we ended that. We got from challenging stereotypes to stereotyping, but yeah, we're all figuring out as well, right?
I would say that if a man wants to be a Montessori teacher and has a flair for it and would love to do it, I think no one should stop him from doing that.
he
Or
should
no
be
one
able
should
to
judge
do
him.
it.
Yes.
And there should be no taboos. And I think that's looking at people as who they are and not what they represent. I think, and it's a lot more hard work, but I think that's a hard work we should put in.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm going to take a U-turn here, or some turn I'm going to take. And what I want to ask, if we talked so much about, getting influenced by social media and outside world and so on and so forth. And we all try to give our kids the best values, the strongest morals that they can fall back on, right? But what if they still do get influenced, What if your daughter comes from outside and she wants to go somewhere that you feel is extremely unsafe, but she's hell-bent that she'll go and you cannot stop her, or your son comes back and and you're like, can you please make this for me, and he's like, it's not a boy's job, how would you deal with situations like that when you know that this is some negative influence that has nothing to do with how we raised them?
No, we've not had a day like that, and I'm very sure a day like that will not come.
Touch wood.
Because we've always negotiated tough conversations, no matter how tough. And it's not been easy. It's driven all of us to pull our hair and whatever, right? It has, very literally almost so, right? But we navigate those conversations.
I'm glad.
Right? And when you navigate those tough conversations, you know that they also understand why it's a problem. Right? And I think...
Basically, you're not just telling them, do this. You explain.
You do, yeah. And if they still want to do it, then maybe value it, no? Maybe there's a reason why how can someone be bigger influence than you in reasoning? Reasoning is reasoning, right? Right. And if they want to take the risk, we'd be fools to think they'd not do it. They do it anyways.
That is true. So, even if you stop them, they'll do it anyway.
And haven't we all?
Yeah,
haven't we all, as youngsters and as older people, we have taken risks.
Yes, big resounding yes.
Control over them is
in illusion.
Whatever who was smoking,
That's a good way of putting it. Have the tough conversations, but you can't really stop them. They'll do it anyway.
I mean, all you can
so
do is...
little control and power we have because the world is changing so fast. I grew up in the 90s and the world is completely different place from where it was.
So maybe you guys feel like that a little bit more because your kids are very young. Both of us know, I think, a lot more confident with it because...
And they get along fine. They get along fine. And what you're saying, I mean, you tell them what you are scared about and you put that out there on the table and say that, okay, this is my experience and this has happened. And if you're mindful, if you're careful and cautious, just, okay, you go take your risk, but just be logical about it. So, I think just letting them know is the important part. But eventually the decision is theirs to make.
And I think also there is this huge pressure for parents to be perfect. Why? It's fine to be it's fine to be as flawed as you are in front of them.
My son does not think that we are perfect parents, so I don't know where the pressure is. Maybe other people are putting the pressure, but the children are not.
Kids know that you're not perfect, we put that pressure on ourselves.
But you know that, then they know, right? Here's a flawed person telling me what could be flawed in their decision. So.
Yeah, like I was saying, he's the most matured person in our family. That's how he behaves. And he treats us like we're little people and we really don't understand anything important. So,
oh, mom, you don't get it. Okay. You scared us and then you gave us a little bit of hope.
Yeah, hope. Yeah.
You know, often when you want your children to do something, you have to model it, right? And because we're new moms, we're doing it right now, changing our behavior. Like, so do you remember any behaviors that you have changed so that your kids model?
Being patient. I'm someone who's very impatient, very fidgety, very, you know, I want to get things done like that. When I say, because I don't know what it is. When something needs to be done, it should be done on time. I'm not like, you know, someone who's very patient. Okay, you do, I'll wait. I'm not like that. And I see my children taking their own sweet time. I don't want to say anything. Keeps on happening. I'm like, please, can you just go and keep it over there? I just wanted to ask that, but I cannot. Because I want them to live their own sweet, slow-paced life, which they are blessed with already. Yeah, I want them to enjoy that phase. So I just shut up. So that's one thing that I've been trying to do is not to interfere or intervene and put my thoughts into their brain. Like, you know, you have to get it done quickly. I don't do that right now because...
Yeah, I'm learning. This has been my biggest challenge too. Zero patience. And now I have to raise a child. So I'm learning patience firsthand because otherwise it's just they don't care if you're impatient. So if I get impatient, I'll be having tantrums before he has tantrums. So yeah, that has been my biggest challenge too, like learning patience.
And sometimes when it's, you know, early in the morning and my elder one has to go to school and everything is a chaos at home. You guys can imagine. So it's a chaos at home and my elder one is like, relax. Like, okay, thank you. My son does. I'm like, it's getting late now. I have to take bath and I have to go. Can you make it quicker? And he's like, relax.
Oh my god, I'm imagining a 6-year-old doing that. So adorable.
He does that.
What about you guys? What did you have to change? Like, I'm sure that would be quite a bit.
Actually, I don't think I changed.
No?
They know me for who I am. Like I said, false, all. And it's okay, right? And I think that gives them, I'm hoping, comfort in who they are, right? I mean, how much do you model for who? You change for your family, you change for this, you change for this. Why change even for your kids, no? I mean, ultimately, you want them to live. I mean, I think God perfected each one of us for whatever reason he or she did. Right? And stay true to that. If you're impatient, you're impatient. Of course, I mean, morning routines, I mean, taking all that out because kids don't understand the pressure in the morning. All those, of course.
But beyond a degree, there's no reason to twist yourself into a pretzel.
I don't want to twist myself. Then I would be doing a very wrong... It's injustice to myself, right?
True. That's a good perspective as well. I'm loving this conversation. This is like for me parenting 101.
I don't think I change so much, but I expect my husband to change.
So that's what we all do. I think we all do. Yeah.
So I don't think I'm so kind to him. So you know, if he's not doing something one day, I'm like, "Hey, kya tum sofe pe baithe ho?" You know, is that what you want to model for your son?
I try to keep my phone away when I'm not working. With my husband, I've realized I'm a lot after his blood. That, you know, if he sees you with phone, if you're not working, why do you have phone? He'll think it's normal to walk around with your phone like this. Please keep it. Yeah, after his blood all the time because of his phone. Yeah, that's one behavior. I'm getting him to change.
I think we're just kind to ourselves and not so kind to the spouse. That's it.
Yeah. I think we're not kind to ourselves also. Like, I don't think women are kind to themselves. Like, we are our own worst critics. There's always a parallel voice in the back of your head telling you that, you know, everything you do is wrong and everything, you know nothing. And, you know, that's all. I think we are our own worst critics. And that's why sometimes it comes out on others too. If you're this hard on yourself, kuch to you'll be critical about others too. But yeah, I guess this whole thing of giving grace to yourself, being easy on yourself, will be easier on others too then. You know, not about phone though. No, that one I'm going to continue being hard on myself and on him. Yeah, but you're absolutely right there. Like, I see kids these days be much more comfortable in their skins. At least they appear to be so. Yes. Which is where I see the dichotomy. Right? Like, in one way they are so vulnerable, in one way they are so confident, in one way they are so aware, in one way they're still little kids. They haven't really experienced the world. They've only experienced the world through a screen. Right? So it's a very...
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that, you know, at least the generation is accepting their skin tone.
Yeah, oh my
Yeah.
god.
And even the makeup has
Oh.
changed because of that.
Yeah,
The
yeah,
industry
yeah.
itself has changed. Fair and Lovely had to change its name.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
know.
oh yeah, I'm all for that. I'm all
Yeah,
for that.
absolutely.
You know, I'm really happy seeing that, you know, women are being more confident in who and how
Yeah.
they are.
I think we're changing for the better.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. Coming to a very important subject, I think we touched upon it briefly. We're talking about mental health, right? Or I don't think we talked about it, but yeah. We're doing all of this thing. We are having the tough conversations with them. We are respecting them. We are trusting them. But if things were, it's life, things happen. How do you deal with it? Like, do you take your kids to therapy if needed, or how do you even have those conversations? Like, how do you even figure out that my kids might need help? Yeah, that's my question.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's I have two girls, right?
Yeah.
The older one has been to therapy, and she's constantly sees a therapist. The younger one is very against it, but then now we've decided as a family, which is 3 of us right now, we'll do a family therapy together because we feel we need it. I think there should be no shame in saying that I need help. Right? There are two things I do believe, like when people push you to therapy, maybe some people don't want to relive the past. I also think so. And it can't be like, from 6 to 7, I need to be crying about this stuff that happened back to me. Right? So those are little stress points where, you'll probably withdraw from your therapy sessions, right? But I think when you need it, you should unabashedly go and get for it, because it's just not the conscious mind. At least from what I learned just yesterday talking to a therapist, is that you might function perfectly on the top of it, but you have not probably resolved it at the subconscious. And trust me, there's a subconscious, is what she says. Obviously, she's trained to understand that, right? So I'd like to take her word for it and understand that I have unresolved issues too, right? Just like and I would have
think
put that,
all of us do.
And it's not fair that my kids deal with that unresolved issue of mine. Right? I'm probably in constant...
I think that is all of our fear, right?
Yeah.
That you want to resolve your issues so that you don't project onto your child, and then they don't speak to their therapist about it 10 years later.
Which, trust me, it will
will
there.
happen.
It will happen.
It will
and you will
happen,
be
yes.
cause of some trauma to your kid's life.
Yeah, definitely.
But to,
Inevitable.
Yeah,
Inevitable,
to be truly sorry where you caused that hurt, and to recognize that you caused that hurt. I think half the people, if whatever bad they might have done in your life, if you get a true apology, we move from it.
Yes. Oh my God, that is so well put.
So
because trauma, saying that, validation, that they validated your pain. Yeah, I did this to you. I'm sorry about it. Right? And most of us don't get that.
Sorry?
Most of us don't get that.
Yeah, we don't get that. But if you're able to do that to our kids, when we've wronged them, to say we've wronged them, right? It gives them, I think, so much more assurance that, that things are going to be okay. He or she's going to be there with me, come what may, even when they goof. When they make a mistake, rather, right?
Yeah.
And they'll say sorry too, if they need to.
I hope the people who've not yet said sorry to me are watching this. But
But you know what I've realized, Amrita? I think the biggest peace comes when you don't expect it. I think there's some people you should hold responsible for it and expect it out of them. But if it doesn't come, just walk away from it and release yourself of that expectation.
You can't live in that. You can't live in that. I was just being silly, but you can't really live in that, because you know when you will get an apology. You know when you won't, and when you won't, it is hard. It's very hard. But you have to walk away. You have to be okay with not getting that apology.
I read something very interesting. It's like expecting a sorry from a person who you're not going. It's like you waiting for their permission to move on in life. Why still give them the control?
No,
give them the control to hurt you. Now you're giving them the control to release you from that pain. Doesn't make sense, no?
I think the takeaway is apologizing to our kids when we make a mistake and not waiting for others who've done wrong to us to apologize.
I do think that when we make mistakes, or what our children see as mistakes, it's because we didn't realize that we were making a mistake that we made. If we realized, I'm thinking that most parents would not commit these mistakes. So I think it's more personality types, right? I'm a kind of a person, and that henceforth I'm this kind of a parent, right? And even if I do 90% things right, there'll be some things that I would have rubbed my child the wrong way, right? And now I'm thinking that both of us are the sandwich generation, and we're seeing, I still get very upset with my dad who's going to turn 80, right? I feel that there are some things that I held, that he didn't do right when I was 16 or 18 and all that.
It stays
but it's
with
about my
you.
growing up as well, right? Because he was who he was, and who I am is because of the way he was, which is both a good and a bad person, right? So
Completely agree.
I can't really hold him responsible for him just being him.
Yeah.
Right? But does it hurt? Did it hurt? It did.
Absolutely.
It did. But who has to make
Always.
peace? I have to make peace. Right? Would I rather that he be somebody that he wasn't actually, just to make me happy? No, I think that's expecting too much. And I know today I'm kinder, but a few years ago when I lost my mom, I wasn't. And I'm just hoping that, those are the messages that I send out to my child, that at the time I chose, I think that I'm a very strong person, but I just went through such a tough time that I found myself a therapist, and I spoke about it all the time at home, and they saw me in that state. I was grieving, and there was just so much trauma, and I just couldn't deal with it. It was damn tough. But I feel that at least now that I look back, that they saw that this is the choice that I made, when I was when things were difficult for me. I think that's the message that we send out.
Yeah, you're
We all wear
modeling.
tough exteriors, but I think we're just little girls inside sometimes.
Yes, all of us.
All
No?
of us.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Thank you so much. Like,
Yeah.
I think I'm going to end this here.
Why are we all in tears though at the end of it?
Yeah, because
laugh
you just
so much,
mentioned we're all softies. We're all little
Yeah.
softies. But
Yeah.
thank you for sharing that,
Yeah.
Juvi. Like, that was very, very real. And yeah, I mean, can completely relate to that, and can just hope that, that they will
I think
see you being
we as a
vulnerable.
generation are normalizing mental health and therapy when we need it, and being strong when that is needed. Everything. I think somewhere they will find things that we didn't do right.
Yeah,
But they
yeah.
also remember things
Yeah.
that we
Will
did
be.
right. So
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah. But you're clearly doing so much right. And I think that is something, that is what I want people to take away from this, right? There was so much, I mean, such an incredibly relevant episode. And thank you for not holding back, all of you. Thank you so much, right? I'm sure we've missed something, and I really hope we get another opportunity to do an episode. But I'm going to let you guys go. You've already given me so much of your time.
Thank you.
Right?
Yeah,
Thank
you.
you.
Yeah.